Get out of here!
You've probably seen that clip on social media in the last 12 hours. Let's talk about what's happening in that video. I feel that it's a really important cultural moment and we must acknowledge what has happened in that particular incident that everyone is commenting about. Now, I feel like there's something about Mumbai that most politicians still don't understand, right? This city tolerates a lot. It tolerates overcrowded trains, it tolerates broken roads, flooding, delays, construction, detours, commutes and traffic that chew up about 3 hours of our day. And every once in a while, one person stands up in this city and says what everybody else is thinking. This week, that person was this woman. Now, she was a ordinary citizen on her way to pick up her child from school, and she was left stranded in traffic for hours. She was stranded because the disruption had been caused by a protest march organized by the ruling BJP. The government of Maharashtra was actually conducting this protest march against the opposition based on what happened in Parliament about the Women's Reservation Bill. And they're actually organizing these protests all across the country right now in every state. Now, the ruling BJP is protesting on the streets of Mumbai and caused a traffic jam. From what we understand from this video, that people were stuck for an hour. And obviously, this is not something someone going to pick up their child from school being delayed by an hour is not a good place to be. Anyway, so the woman actually, frustrated and angry, stepped out of her vehicle, walked straight into the chaos of that march, found the Maharashtra Minister, Mr. Girish Mahajan, and confronted him face to face. She also confronted the police and the organizers of that road blockade, demanding that they disperse right now, demanding that they go into the open Maidan and not block the road. This is that viral clip.
मैदान में जाके बोलिए ट्रैफिक को रोकते नहीं ओके गेट आउट ऑफ हियर Did you not understand? Did you not understand? अरे जाइए No, what is wrong with you? There are hundreds of people waiting. There is an empty ground there. There is an empty ground. Yes. Get out of here. मेरे से कोई बात नहीं करेगा. यहाँ से इस ट्रैफिक को हटाओ. Shut up.
Well, the clip has gone viral, and for many people, she's not just one angry commuter. She is the voice of the whole city's frustration at this point. And after that confrontation this morning, Mr. Girish Mahajan, the minister, has responded in a small press conference, and this is what he said.
कल महिलाओं का दिनात्मक मोर्चा था. महिला बिल पास करने के कारण कांग्रेस के खिलाफ महिलाओं ने उसका आयोजित किया था और हजारों की संख्या में हमारी बहनें महिला उस मोर्चा में शामिल भी थी. लेकिन अगर रोड पे जब हम चलते हैं मोर्चा काल से कहा को वर्ली लाना था तो रोड तो ब्लॉक हो गई. थोड़ी तकलीफ तो होती है अभी हर आंदोलन में. अभी आप इतने बड़े बड़े आंदोलन है, कितने किसी दिन के आंदोलन चले, पूरा हाईवे जाम हो जाते हैं, लोगों से लेडी को उठना पड़ता है. तो सारी बात गलत है, ये नहीं कहूँगा उससे समर्थन जरूर था. लेकिन अभी थोड़ी देर के लिए लोगों को तकलीफ हुई, लेकिन ट्रैफिक भी जाम हुई, ये बात सही है. लेकिन इसका मतलब इतनी असंसदीय भाषा में आप बोलोगे, वहाँ आके इतना किसी को भी कुछ भी बोलोगे, मुझे बोला तो ठीक है, लेकिन पुलिस के बारे में भी बहुत गलत टिप्पणी उन्होंने वहां की. रस्ते में बॉटल पड़ी थी, फेंक के मोर्चा में फेंक कर उन्होंने मारी, तो ये भी कोई सही बात नहीं.
Now, this is why I have brought up this, because of the minister's response, right? So on one hand, he said that she shouldn't have used the language she used and she should have stayed calm and she should have been composed. She even threw a bottle and we told the police to remain calm and we addressed all of her issues. And I think that was a really good response. But he also said, and I quote, "We took proper permission for the march. The route was pre-decided. Planning was already in place," end quote. And that last sentence is really important. The minister says they had proper permission. And my question is, permission from whom? And permission to do what exactly? And this is the reason why I'm bringing this up and doing this video. Now, I want to go back to something that this same Maharashtra government that this minister is part of decided last year. You'll remember last year, Manoj Jarange Patil, who was fighting for Maratha reservation, did a rally from Jalna to Mumbai. It was a rally of cars that came into Mumbai at that point, and it totally jammed up South Mumbai. At that point in 2025, the same Maharashtra government actually brought in some rules. It designated Azad Maidan in town as the only place for protests and agitations in South Mumbai, and it imposed strict restrictions that you cannot do morchas anywhere else in the city because you'll inconvenience the people. Under the new rules, granting permission for an agitation is now at the sole discretion of a designated officer of the police. No protest is allowed after 6 p.m. No more than 5,000 people can participate. And most importantly, any proposed agitation, and I quote, cannot interfere with government events or cause significant problems to vehicular and pedestrian movement. The Mumbai Police Commissioner himself notified what they called Public Meetings, Agitations and Processions Rules 2025, the same day that Bombay High Court took it up and restrained Jarange Patil from holding an indefinite strike in Azad Maidan. These rules technically apply to everybody. So how is it possible that this one protest that was organized in Worli was given permission to protest on the street, to block traffic, and to inconvenience the citizens of the city, where there are very clear rules saying that you're not allowed to do precisely that? Now that's a Mumbai question. Let's actually zoom out and look at the entire country at this point, right? Now, this is where I stand. It's my personal opinion. I'm putting it out as my personal opinion. We are a country that was born out of peaceful protest. So our non-cooperation movement, our non-violent movement for independence was purely peaceful protest. We just stood in the way. And it worked for us. So I do believe that it is an intrinsic part of being Indian to have the right to protest. Also, it is enshrined in our constitution. We have the right to expression, and we have the freedom of speech, and that gives us the right to register our protest when we disagree with something. So the larger constitutional question for all of India is, do we have the right to protest? Yes. It's fundamental in a democracy to have the right to protest. Now let's take a look at what our Supreme Court has said on two different instances. This is a very important one. 2021, where the farmers were protesting outside of Delhi, the Supreme Court was hearing the case of roadblocks, and Justice S.K. Kaul made his position very clear. He said, and I quote, "Roads cannot be blocked. There should be no doubt about this." End quote. And during that hearing, senior advocate Dushyant Dave, who was appearing for the farmers, referred to an earlier Supreme Court judgment, in which Chief Justice Bobde has said everybody has a right to protest. The right to protest is sacrosanct, and the court directed that the protesters should not be removed as long as they are peaceful. So he said, hey, we have a sacrosanct right to protest, to which Justice Kaul drew a distinction. And I'm reading out that distinction to you right now. He said, and I quote, "There are competing interests of the farmers who are agitating. I'm of the opinion that they have the right to protest, but people have the right to move on the roads. The law is very clear. You have the right to agitate, but the roads cannot be blocked." That is the balance that the democracy is supposed to maintain. So the Supreme Court making it very clear to us that yes, you have a fundamental right, which means nobody can take that right away from you, to protest. But that right does not include the right to inconvenience any other citizen who is equal to you. So you can protest if you want to, as long as you do not inconvenience anybody else. And the Supreme Court has said very clearly, you have the right to agitate, but the roads cannot be blocked. You can mobilize, you can dissent, you can protest, you cannot hold a city hostage. And that is exactly what has struck the nerve. Because if in a constitution and in a democracy we are arguing that all citizens are equal, and that means that my right to protest is equal to your right to travel on the road and reach your destination on time. One does not cancel out the other. So in this case, the thing that really bothered everybody was a sense of entitlement of someone who may have considered themselves more powerful and more important than the citizens who were stuck in traffic. Someone's protest at that point was more important than someone else's time. So it isn't really about one woman, it isn't about one rally, it's about the relationship of power we have in our country. When we pay enormous amounts of money in fuel, in taxes, in tolls, in property value, in fees, in civic charges, we expect to be treated equally with everybody else, which means that there is no one else more important than the mom going to pick up her child from school, because we are all equally important. And that is the idea that was broken here. And that is why it seemed like something we were all thinking, and someone actually came out and vocalized. I want to point out to you, and this is something that I've personally learned. I moved to Mumbai 22 years ago. And there are two things about Mumbai that struck me as a young person when I came in from Bangalore, and I lived in Karnataka my whole life up till then. One is that Mumbai measures everything in time. Time is everything, right? It measures distance in time. It measures everything in time. A Mumbaikar will not forgive the waste of time. The people in this city work really hard, and that time is really tight. So it's all, I will go there, I'll pick this up, and I'll come back, and I'll do this, and I'll do that. That's how everybody works, right? So the idea that they will forgive you an hour's waiting in traffic has never been true. Secondly, the women, Mumbaikar women, are fighters, and you should not get in their way. And this is across the board, right? The women in the trains, the women in the cars, the women in the, who are bureaucrats in the biggest offices, the ones who are running the banks do not get in anybody's way. These women are fighters. Living in this city takes a lot of fight, and they're not going to let you walk all over them. And I think they're a great example for this whole country at this point. Mumbai is, interestingly, the money maker for any government. For the BMC that runs the city, for the Maharashtra government, and for the national government. All the big taxes, all the big money comes out of Mumbai. Everybody knows that. Take, for example, the BMC that runs the city has a budget of 74,427 crore rupees. $8 billion effectively, like nearly $8 billion, mad amounts of money. And sitting on that kind of mad amounts of money, if you're going to turn around and tell us that we can't have excellent roads on par with any other city in the world, that we have to constantly listen to the sound of drilling and construction, that we have to breathe construction dust all the time, that we have to be in packed trains, which appalling conditions, where the mortality numbers of people who die in trains and people who die on roads because of potholes and because they're being run over and because the roads are unsafe, just an appalling state of affairs that we have to live in this city in this manner. And then to also tell us, while we are swallowing all of this nonsense, that you and your idea and your entitlement of protest is in some way more important than our time. That's not going to fly. So the reason why I think that this woman became all of Mumbai in that one clip, and the interesting part of it is nobody knows her name yet, by the way. Everybody's asking, who is this person? We don't know her name yet, but I mean, she's just Captain Mumbai. Okay, and the reason why she became Captain Mumbai at this point is because she confronted what most people just shrug off and put up with. I mean, we reached a point now where people complain in the car, and they complain in their WhatsApp groups, and they complain in their Instagram stories. But here is someone who walked up to the nucleus of power in that entire activity and said, what is wrong with you? I mean, it's a question that we're asking all the time. I have a friend of mine who sits in the car with me, and every time we pass, she said, but why can't this be fixed? Why can't, like, what is wrong? I mean, we're all saying what is wrong, but none of us have ever walked up to power and asked what is wrong. And that silent frustration then, sort of just coming out, I think everyone just felt like they were seen in that moment. And this whole business of this happens on a daily basis, the long travel hours, the unpredictable traffic, the constant road work, the peak hour chaos. It felt like this was the last straw for someone to deliberately add more delay to the roads and more chaos to the roads. It was something that simply could not be taken. But I think that the most important part of this was that this woman was not an activist. She's not an opposition politician member. She's not ideologically leaning one way or the other. She's just a mom trying to pick up her kid from school. And that matters because at the end of the day, real life trumps all narratives. Real life trumps all sort of ideology or politics. At the end of the day, we just want to get on with our lives. And we're all yearning for a time when politics happened somewhere and it was great for them, but we were able to just live our lives without it. What do we want to do? We want to work. We want to pick up our kids from school. We want to be able to have dinner with our family together because nobody's stuck in traffic. Everybody made it home on time. We don't want to have to discuss politics day in and day out. It's such an active part of our lives. Why? I mean, we don't want to have it be such an active part of our lives. It's about dignity at the end of the day. The fact that my life as an ordinary citizen, my time, my children, my family, my earnings, my taxes has as much importance as anybody else. And this is from the poorest to the most powerful person in the city. This woman went viral because she represented. She spoke up, and it's something we don't do very often. But I want to know what you think. On one hand, we do have a fundamental right to protest. So, does Mr. Mahajan of the Maharashtra government have a right to get on the street and protest the fact that he disagrees with the opposition's behavior in Parliament? 100% by my yardstick, he definitely has that right. So, is the problem here with the Mumbai police who granted him permission to block the roads in Worli for 1 hour? Is that preferential treatment? Should the Mumbai police be asked to respond to this? Because at the end of the day, the Mumbai police is wearing a uniform and they should treat everyone equally. What is slipping? Why is it slipping? And why does it feel unfair? Let me know in the comments.